It's a very good afternoon to a non-lockdown version of Sportsfan Radio. We can actually cheer because the restraints have been lifted in Victoria, and Dan Butterly tells me that he couldn't come back on the show until we were out of lockdown because he was a bit worried about catching something. So it's a pleasure to see him back on. And today's special guest, and back after a very lengthy period of not talking to her. The show was just in its infancy when we first spoke to Leesa Catto, and she was then the media manager at the Victorian Women's Football League, but since then become a life member. And we welcome you today to talk about AFLW, Leesa, because it's on the horizon again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It has been a hell of a long time. You're right, coming into the studio all those years ago, but it is great to be back with you today. And AFLW women's footy just going in leaps and bounds since we last spoke.
I'm going to pass over to Sarah to ask you a few questions, but I just have one question for you, Leesa, and it's probably pertinent given the period of time since you were last on the show.
Sure.
Hasn't women's football come? I don't think any of us could have predicted back in the late 2009, 2010 where it would be today.
No, look, it's just amazing to see it. And nationally, you know, the numbers, like from little things, big things grow, as Paul Kelly sang about different matters, but it's pretty pertinent here. Started off small with that bunch of women in Victoria that wanted to play in 1981. And it's just phenomenal. The numbers, the clubs, the junior girls now nationally leading up to what we see is season 6 coming up of AFLW starting in January. So it has grown. I think once those pathways were built in for juniors, youth girls, it started from back in 2004 in Victoria slowly. That was always coming, that wave. And now it's realistically now a sport for girls, a sport for women that is, a normal sport that it never was before. So hallelujah. That's all I can say, really.
Leesa, can I just ask before we go to Sarah, you must feel very proud of what you've done, what the founders did. And I must say, I remember those days. They were early days, and you must feel incredibly proud about what you've achieved.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that. It's phenomenal. All those hours that we put in as volunteers for years and years, like I can remember just over a Christmas period working 50 hours just to transition our old website to a new version. All those hours that you put in to try and improve things and make it better for everyone. And now to see it, it's very proud. Still a way to go with things, but phenomenal where we're at now and the way it's been embraced. And thank you.
And it's fair to say that the men's game wasn't all that totally embracing back in the day.
Certainly, absolutely fair to say, right from the VFL, AFL Victoria, the AFL, it certainly wasn't embraced. It wasn't anything that they really wanted to particularly know about or would paid lip service to, for a long time until they could see, yes, this is not going to go away. We're playing the game. It's getting better and better. And then people could see the benefits to the business, the benefits to the clubs, just the benefits to society. Half the population couldn't play the game at the top level.
Which has been my bugbear, Leesa. I'll say no more than this, other than to say that I think the women's game should be very suspicious of the AFL. It's never embraced women's football. It was always something which was going to be a revolution from within, from women themselves. And I've long said, and I say it even more strongly now, that women's game has to take care of itself.
Yes.
If you rely on the AFL, they'll do it the way the AFL wants you to do it.
Look, and absolutely. And I know from you look at the AFL annual report, there's plenty of money in that AFL coffers to pay the players more, to, full time in their reserves, all of those things. Absolutely. So we're in a critical point at the moment with the players' CBA coming up for negotiation and TV rights and stuff. So 100% with you. And there's a lot that still to be done for sure. It's really only the start now.
Sarah, I'm sure you'd like to ask Lexa some questions.
Just on that, sorry, Sarah, if it's not managed,
right.
if it's not managed properly, I fully agree with you what you're saying. It has to be managed properly now. Otherwise, it really has to be treated properly by the AFL, or there's cause for concern. There's players dropping out because they can't maintain a wage and working full time. So that we're seeing that more and more at the moment. So there's certainly issues with the way it's being run. Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's all right. Obviously, you've been very involved in women's footy on all levels, especially at grassroots. I know that I've had friends that have played at the St Kilda Sharks and have told me so much about the club and just the culture and building it up. What was the process like going from footy being naturally a boys' club to actually bringing these really talented female athletes together and building your own culture from scratch?
That's a very good question, actually, and it differs at club to club as well. There's some clubs that really embrace women's footy, like some traditionally men's footy clubs, as they've been over the years, that have embraced it, and other clubs that have not so much embraced it. At St Kilda, like, you know, with everything, there's been probably issues, but there's a really good relationship with the St Kilda City team and the St Kilda Sharks. Being really separate entities now, we were together, but then the girls separated, the women's team separated from the men's team to become our own entity. So we had more control over things, finances and resources. Still working together. So there's always teething problems, and I think that, you know, that has been the case. We've seen another club I was involved in years ago. The girls were embraced at the start, and the club actually got funding for some work to be done at the pavilion because the women's team was coming in, and then after 4 years, they asked the women's team to leave. So, you know, there's been a lot of mixed experiences that have been had along the way with women's teams. And I can understand men's footy clubs that have been run a certain way. Fair to say, you know, the women might be in the kitchen cooking the dinners or doing whatever back in the traditional, you know, past, to now suddenly women are playing footy, and that it's changed. It's changed the culture of places a lot for the better. Some, you know, some sort of struggle with that, some people, but it's really going well, and in every club's different. So I think it's about the people and how the people sort of can work together.
No,
the
definitely.
Sharks is a great club, Sarah, a great club. So if you want to have a kick, just come down.
That's all right. I think the girls at Bentley would have my head if I ended up moving clubs, but
Fair
appreciate
enough.
it.
No.
But no, especially I've seen St Kilda Sharks play in the VFLW and currently in like top tier Southeast women's as well. But you've been basically a machine for some really talented AFLW players now as well. What's it like seeing the roots that you planted years ago actually form and help develop these players that are now playing at the elite level?
It's wonderful. You know, we'll go and see Bree Davey at Collingwood, and to see her as co-captain last year and as the inaugural or the second year in Carlton captain, such a phenomenal player. Then she's won the best and fairest in the league. You know, she's come from that junior player as a footy player with the boys down at Port Melbourne Colts, I think it was, and then coming into a Matilda's soccer background. And really, we've only got her in the sport because she got cut from the 2015 World Cup of Soccer from the Matilda squad. And she comes to the Sharks for a bit of a run because she's friends with some of the girls there. And what a champion, you know. And to see her, other players, Penny Cooler-Reid came through when she was 16 to, she came through firstly through the youth, through the juniors at Bentley, and then her actions along with two other girls in taking Football Victoria, as it was then, to VCAT, to extend the age range for girls to play with the boys, she came to the Sharks, and what a trailblazer and a star she's been, and now she's coaching in her own right in a VFL setting at Williamstown. You know, we've had a lot of really talented players come through the Sharks. To see them, like, we follow so many different AFLW clubs now because we've got players pretty much, you know, all over the place, and it's great to see. And we're always trying to help the girls develop. That, you know, girls that want to go on to play at VFL and AFLW level, how can we help them and develop them?
Definitely. And even I know from my position, I've grown up as a massive footy fan, a Hawthorn fan, so even more excited to see they're going to be fielding a team in the future. But around me, there weren't a lot of women's teams to play for, and they started popping up a bit more as I went through primary school and high school, but I'd already invested myself in netball. But just deciding to have a crack at it after I graduated, I was like, I've got more time now. We'll see how we go. And me and plenty of other women, I'm sure it is one of the best decisions I've made, because it is an opportunity that women haven't been able to have for so many years, because it was a boys' club and there wasn't that high level for women to be able to play for. And that's the best part, I guess, coming through St Kilda Sharks with you, is that the culture, you've built it yourself, and there's other women's footy clubs that are starting to pop up as well, like the Eastern Devils and KC Thunder. Is it good to see those like women-centric clubs coming through and joining the stereotypical boys' club of a lot of leagues?
It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You know, like the Eastern Devils have been there for a long time in various names, Deakin Devils, East Burwood, Eastern Devils. So we've had a long rivalry with them, and they're a great club. Look at Darebin Falcons Football Factory, as I call them jokingly. You know, that's a women's club. Like, they have cricket, soccer. I think they have play 8-ball or pool or something in a competition, and they're footy. And they've just produced just champion after champion after champion of the game. Essentially, that club's been run by women on the committee, which is the same at the Sharks. You know, women coaching, women doing all those kind of roles. And what they've managed to achieve is just phenomenal. So, yeah, it is good to see all of that. And also great for you with your Hawks. They're really investing in female coaches as well, which I'm thrilled to see. Like, Beck Goddard's been appointed as the inaugural AFLW coach, obviously coaching the VFLW. And then there's Christina Politaco, Lou Watton, Cherie O'Neill's just been named as the VFLW coach. So they have 4 women's coaches already in positions there at Hawthorn that is giving those women an opportunity to develop and grow and hopefully go on to, you know, bigger and better things. So that is really good to see. Still some way to go with the coaching. There's still some clubs that don't have any female coaches also. And also, I haven't liked at all what I've seen with the way St Kilda's parted ways with Peter Searle. I think that's...
Either way, Leesa.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and it's something that we've spoken about on the show as well. And it was a hot topic in the media after Peter Searle parted ways with St Kilda. And it was just interesting to see how, I guess, the media approached it, and the fact that it wasn't something that people had really thought of a lot. Or there's obviously people who have thought about it, but then suddenly more footy fans are thinking, why aren't there more females having a crack at coaching? Why haven't we seen more females getting promoted through to AFLW ranks? But I guess in the last 6 months especially, clubs like St Kilda and AFLW clubs and the AFL themselves have started trying to promote women's coaching a bit more and getting more grassroots players involved in the coaching side. Have you seen more girls put their hands up with the St Kilda Sharks to coach and get involved behind the scenes?
Yeah, look, I have. And I've seen some players who, for whatever reason, say injury-wise, maybe won't continue with their playing careers, even though they're younger, who want to coach, which is great. And so we'll work with them on that. Just on the Peter Searle situation, there was a press release put out by the Saints that essentially said that Peter had gone on to bigger and better things, or whatever, however they worded it, which I thought was a fairly interesting way to spin the fact that her contract wasn't renewed and that she was replaced by favourite son Nick Del Santo, who I don't think had much coaching of women's footy before. They've added some additional resources there with him that Peter didn't get when she was there. And I think they're sort of trying to set him up not to fail, but very disappointed to see Peter Searle not having a position anywhere. I know she went for an assistant coach's role at the Western Bulldogs that she didn't get. Now, we see coaches like, say, David Teague got cut from the Blues. He's now been picked up at Richmond as an assistant coach. So I would have thought somewhere in Melbourne, in amongst those teams, that those clubs, there would have been a spot for Peter Searle, a level 3 coach with phenomenal qualifications, phenomenal ability to deliver feedback to players, not just positive, but negative as well, and bring those players along with her. And suddenly for AFLW 6, she's after 2 years only in the AFLW spot at the Saints, because that's all they've been there for, she's out of a job. So I did write to St Kilda. I'm yet to receive a response about what happened there, but I'm sort of a bit lost for words. I hope that's not.
Sorry, Leesa, did you say that you've written to St Kilda and they haven't responded to your letter?
Yeah.
That is just, apart from disrespectful to you, because you're well known in the women's game, that is just a slap in the face to anybody who shows an interest in a football club. The club actually doesn't even respond to, and I think that's extremely poor.
Yep. I just asked the question, why? What's happened? Why is this? What's happened here? Why exactly? And I am actually a St Kilda member also, purely for the fact that Pete and Philly Lucas Rod, one of our Sharks, is at St Kilda. So yeah, I know it is very disappointing in my humble opinion.
No, and I think the whole panel would agree with you on that as well. Sorry, Judge.
Sorry, Sarah. Look, Lisa, just one thing about the women's game on a positive note. The revolution continues. You're now at a critical mass, it seems to me, of women playing and young girls getting interested with influence, which you're now getting, comes, dare I say it, power. I'm just wondering where you see the women's game. Let's just cast the net, say, 10 years from now. I just wonder if you've got a big picture of how you see it all panning out.
Well, Trudy, I'm a bit torn on whether I want it to be in winter or not. Yep. Because ideally it's a winter sport in Victoria, let's face it. In some of the, that's what it's been in the past. Is that the best time to play it? It needs to have that sort of space from AFLM, as I'll refer to it.
Do you think there should be a separation, Leesa? Because we have talked about this a lot, about whether there should be a separation, and I'm definitely of the view there should be. Interesting you call it the AFLM. I like that. But do I hear from you that there ought to be an actual separation between the men's and women's game?
Well, yes and no. I like I want the clubs, I'm an Essendon member. I have been all my life. So I want us to have a team. Okay. So from a holistic AFL manages the competition point of view, I want my club to have a team, as does every other football supporter in the country. I'm sure, well, most of them. Whether it should be played in summer or winter, it needs to be a full season. The athletes need to be full-time, the coaches, the support staff, everyone. I would essentially, what AFLM is what AFLW needs to be. So we're only a small part of the way there. Great, fanfare every year. We launch the season. Players running around in the jumpers, they're embraced at their clubs. Some clubs embrace them better than others still at the moment. They're seen probably as just a part player at some clubs, whereas other clubs have fully embraced them. I was talking to a player the other day who said that Stephen Hocking at Geelong he couldn't be more open, so happy to be in that role and have the women's team as part of it and making it feel like a full club. I watched a video where he actually spoke to the team, and you could see the emotion from the CEO down, where it's like that. Whereas, that's genuine, where other clubs have thought, oh, we better have a women's team because we'll get more sponsorship. We'll get this, we'll get that. Like at one club in the first year, they didn't even have proper rooms to change and proper sort of facilities at a big Melbourne club. So there's still a way to go. I personally would like it to stay under the, with the AFL clubs, Essendon, Melbourne, all of those, whether it's played in summer or winter. I want a full season, full-time players so they can still study as well, set themselves up for life after footy. The salaries are what, 30 grand or so at the moment, a player's salary for 6 months. These players are giving up a lot to play that game. Well, they're struggling. Some of them would struggle on that kind of money and then have what other job they could do for the other 6 months, or players like Steph Kiochi from the Pies. She's a teacher. So her day sort of starts at 6 in the morning and finishes at 10 or 11 at night every day, that she has training during the week and recovery and games and teaching, etc. So that's just not sustainable. We'll lose players because of that, the burnout. So, yeah, there's still a long way to go. But I reckon even within the next 5 years, next year, we're going to have the whole 18 clubs in the comp. And then we've got to look at, is there a Tasmania? Is there an NT down the track? Because the talent will keep building and building. It's just, managing it is crucial now. And the AFL does have the money. They've got it. You look in their annual report, which probably doesn't say as much financially as it used to under different commissioners. There's resources there to put into the game. So there's still a way to go yet. I know that's a long answer, but there's still a hell of a lot that we can do.
Leesa, Gelding here. I was interested to hear that you said you want to keep them separate because I'm a Richmond supporter, you're an Essendon supporter. We've got Hawthorn supporters, St Kilda supporters. We've been kind of saying along, there'd be nothing better than going along to a Richmond game and seeing a women's game and a male's game. Now, either they're earlier or later or whatever, but you could go to the football and see both sides, as a member of a club.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
So I was a bit surprised, but I was a bit surprised that you said you wanted to keep them separate.
Well, by that, what I really mean, I'd want an equal sort of broadcast deal. Okay, so I would love that. I'd love to go to the G and see Essendon v Richmond AFLW, Essendon v Richmond AFLM. Imagine that. It just logistically it'd need to be managed because there needs to be a certain amount of time on the ground for the warm-ups. And can the broadcast deals, they should be able to be done, let's face it. So that, if it's on whatever channel it's on, that they commit, they're paying for the rights to the AFL, they commit to broadcasting both. Like if it's on 7 free-to-air, whichever free-to-air channel, they commit, they broadcast both. I would love that. What I don't want to see is the women's game being swamped by the men's game in media coverage. That's what I mean, essentially. Like, probably we'll get to a point where AFLW is generating more and more coverage now than it was at the start, which is fantastic. It still needs more, but it could work like that, Greg, for sure.
Yeah.
Look, you heard it here first. Wouldn't it be incredible if there was, say, an AFLW Tasmanian team first off, and then the AFL realised, gee, we can have a team in Tasmania, and then the men's team followed. That'd be the sort of leadership that I could see the women's game actually pursuing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it would. And let's hope that Clarko comes up with that on his agenda when he's down there helping AFL Tasmania.
Good. Leesa, my final question is, who should the Best and Fairest Award be named after? The AFLW Best and Fairest.
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I think you'd want to go back and look in the history books over the national championships, over the, the sort of 40 years that women have played the game. But I'm not 100% sure on this. Did Brownlow play much, or was he more of an administrator?
More of an administrator. Yeah, he did play.
Yeah.
Administrator down at Geelong.
So we named the best and fairest player in AFLM after an administrator rather than a player, which is interesting in itself. So someone like who's just been awarded life membership at the AFL, Debbie Lee, for her. She was just before, everyone, like winning the best and fairest, driving the game. She's been a coach, a player, an administrator. She's an administrator now. She was a volunteer in those roles for a long time before working in footy. I think it'd be fitting to name the best and fairest after her.
All right, I might get you out of here on this last question, Leesa. It amazes me that the AFL finds it so difficult to release the AFLW draw. I went searching for it a couple of weeks ago, and all I've found in the last couple of weeks is, well, it's not going to start in December now. It's going to start in January, and the basic reason for the pushback is the safety of fans and players and officials. Now, okay, if I accept that, if I look at AFLM and AFLW, that would never happen in AFLM, where nobody knows what the draw is this close to the season.
There's an acronym, a 3-letter acronym, MSU.
Yeah.
And the M is making and the U is up. So you could work out what the S is. And I think that some things are kind of just made up in HQ on the run sometimes. That's just my view from an outsider. I agree 100%. The draw should be out. Why isn't it out? Like it can be adjusted if need be because of this or that. But yes, 100%. The draw, last thing I read about the draw is it'll be out sometime in November.
Yeah, and that's too late. Like it presupposes that nobody's going to plan what they're doing around going to the football.
Yep. And the VFLW draw was the same. It took some time for that to come out. That was the last draw to come out as well.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope that those things change in the future for the better, so that it's got a great market. There are people going to watch it. It's fair to give people a fair amount of time to arrange their affairs so they can go and see it. And hopefully, as Gelding says, one day we'll be able to go to the football and see both games, and that would be really great.
That would be amazing, and I would. That would be my dream, or to go currently to go to Windy Hill and see the Essendon VFLW and the Essendon VFLM, and then you go up to the AFLW, AFLM. That, as long as the coverage, the support, everything say that AFLM is, that eventually AFLW gets. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want, and that's what people like me still continue to work towards. And question if things are not right, and it's great to be on here with you guys. You guys and Lady Sarah, we call you, to to discuss this and raise it and push that sort of agenda out there. It's fantastic.
Well, Leesa, what we can say, thank you, first of all, for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. We love giving time to AFLW and VFLW. I can promise you one thing. We won't leave you on the bench for as long next time before we get you back on to give us some comments about women's football.
Look, that'd be fantastic. And be rapt to come back on. I love your YouTube show too, because it's accessible to anyone, anywhere, not just on the radio. Is that something you're going to continue, or what are you thinking there?
No, we're going to keep doing it like this, Leesa. It's convenient for everybody, including the panelists, because now we don't have to travel, give up so much time. Dan was spending 12 hours coming out to do the show. So
very good.
I moved as close as I possibly could, Southern California to Australia.
No, we're going to make it as accessible as possible. So
I think this is fantastic. It's just shown us with COVID what we can achieve, with this stuff with Zoom and just being out there. So as soon as you want me back on, I'm here and look forward to it. And thanks again, guys.
No worries. Thanks very much, Leesa.
Thanks for coming.
Leesa, keep fighting the good fight, Leesa.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, over to you. The US report, we've got the baseball season coming up to its ultimate game. One participant still to be decided, and that's the National League champion. But the American League champion's been decided, and that's the Houston Astros.
Yeah, your favorite team and mine, Mark, the Houston Astros make it into the World Series. No secret codes that we know of. We may not know that for another 2 or 3 years, as we found out before. But the Astros win the American League, and we're currently in Game 6 of the National League Series with a must-win game for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Currently, the Atlanta Braves lead that series 3-2, and currently in the bottom of the 4th inning in Atlanta, the score is 1-1. So a pitcher's duel currently going on. I anticipate this one will come down to the 9th inning and potentially some heroics to either extend the series or get Atlanta to the World Series.
So, Dan, I opened the time capsule, and may I say, very good tipping. In March, as the season opened, you tipped that the Chicago White Sox would win their division. You tipped that Houston would win their division. You tipped that Atlanta would win their division. You tipped that the Dodgers would win, but they came second, but they're still involved. So we take that as a tick. You thought the Cardinals would win the Central, but the Brewers beat them, but the Cardinals were going longer than the Brewers. And the Yankees for the East, but Tampa Bay pipped them, but Yankees finished second. So all in all, excellent tipping.
Yeah, it's crazy how the season went on. They got the full season going. No real COVID stops this season, which was great. And you look at the three divisions that I did miss on. The Cardinals won like 17 straight. Tried to get the division there in September. Made it to the playoffs and did themselves proud in that respect. Obviously, Milwaukee got that one. The Boston Yankees was down to the wire. Back and forth situation. The same with the Dodgers and the Giants, which is a 1-game separation between those two. So it was a great regular season, and so far it's been a really good playoff as well.
Professor, can I suggest that to all of our listeners, gamble responsibly, but bloody hell, back Dan Butterly, Paul Dalligan, and the Gelding in some sort of weird parlays, and you could do a lot better than, you could do a lot worse than go with those three guys.
What about Sarah with AFL women's tips? She was on fire there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep. So, Dan, looking into your crystal ball, which you love to do, Dodgers and Braves, who's going to win that one today?
Woo, that's a great one. I think the Atlanta Braves will get that one at home. It could be down to the bottom of the 9th, so we shall see.
So you're predicting the Braves to go through?
Yep.
And give us a long-range tip on Houston and the Braves, who'll come out successful and be the world champions.
I think Houston getting a little bit of a break here is going to be a positive. I think Houston's going to play extremely well, and Dusty Baker will get a World Series title for the Houston Astros.
Finally.
Exactly.
Can I ask, Dan, how did the Braves survive the drama that affected the Washington football team, given that their insignia would certainly offend many if you want to follow the Washington? Are we even allowed to say Redskins?
I think they're getting picked off one by one, Paul, in that respect. Obviously, Washington still is trying to figure out a name. The Cleveland Indians changed their name to the Guardians, and the Braves will continue to battle their situation there. I think they're trying to somewhat dispel. It's not an offensive term in that respect. I go back to my days years ago when Bradley University was called the Bradley Braves, and it was very much representative of Native American insignia, that type of stuff. And then they changed to basically it's still the Bradley Braves, but they use a bobcat, and it's being brave is the way they deflected that a little bit. So I anticipate Atlanta's trying to take that track, but I think they're going to continue to battle that until they actually ultimately change their name.
And
I think they'll be the Atlanta baseball team next year.
It sounds to me like that previous guest was saying MSU. I'm going to start using that, making S up, because that's a long bow to draw to say that it represents the notion of being brave. We all know what it means.
Exactly. So yeah, like I said, I think that they're getting picked off one by one. I think that ultimately will have to change.
MSU sounds like a university, possibly a law school, Judge.
Yeah, I can give you a few MSUs.
Do they play in California?
Yeah,
Not that I ever made anything up at university.
Yeah.
You got Michigan State, you got Mississippi State, you got a lot of MSUs over here. So.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. National Basketball Association tipped off this week, and probably for Australians, what is happening with Simmons at the Philadelphia 76ers? Wanted a trade during the off-season, didn't get one, and now all sorts of fun and games going on. It must be a distraction for not only the player, but the team, the coaches, everyone.
No, absolutely. And Ben Simmons is a really solid NBA player with the 76ers. He currently has 4 years left on his contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. So this is not an end of year or end of term contract situation. He wanted to be traded. He knows that his playing time is not as good with Philadelphia because of the depth that they've got on that team. Obviously did not get traded, sat out practices and was suspended for the first game. The Philadelphia 76ers ended up finding him and it's fined him for not practicing. And ultimately this week, he has declared, mental health issues are the cause for him not wanting to play with the 76ers or not wanting to play at all at this point. And there's a language in the collective bargaining agreement in the NBA that says that you cannot fine a player because by declaring, you cannot fine a player if he has declared mental health issues. You got to give the player time to recover from anything that's bothering them relative to mental health. And Judge, I know we've talked about this many times. The mental health issues, not only Ben Simmons here claiming it, but Simone Biles and Osaka in tennis and the number of players that are claiming the mental health issues nowadays. It's a tough one to challenge, Judge.
Dan,
I can get him out of press conferences as well.
How long has mental health been sooking?
Yeah, it's
I
think
an Australian tennis player who sooks and he goes mental health. Ben Simmons, who's paying an absolute fortune, is on a sooky llama, isn't he?
Great question.
Is that a medical term?
Now, okay. When my wife wants to choose a restaurant that I don't want to go to and want to go somewhere else, do I claim mental health?
Gelding, can I just say, Dan, it really raises a fascinating point because I must say, you look at Simmons, and from an objective point of view, it's a large amount of money for a very young man, and he's decided for whatever reason, and his reasons could be genuine, but for whatever reason, I don't wish to pursue this contract. I want to be traded. I am going to hold my breath and my face is going to go red until you trade me. And then suddenly he's got these mental health issues. Well, I'm sure that anybody being in conflict with their club would have mental health issues. I'm sure, as I understand, it's vicious out there in social media land as to what people are saying about him. Philadelphia supporters are incensed about what he's doing. So I've got no doubt that would affect his mental health to an extent. But seriously, at what point do you say this is an excuse and he must pay homage to his club, who are paying him, I forget the amount of money, but I think it's a $70 million contract over 4 years US. It's a lot of money.
I think there's another zero on there, John.
Yeah, Judge, it's
Dan,
actually...
It's 70 million over 4 years, isn't it, Dan?
That's what I said. Sorry, 74 million. 74 million over 4 years.
His current salary this year is $33 million. This year, that's his contract.
US, that's about $50 million our money, which would, by the way, buy a whole football team in Australia. I mean, it's a considerable amount of money. And I must say, I don't wear this mental health excuse. And if he does, his mental health suddenly recovers the moment he gets traded somewhere else. Well, there has to be a proper compensation for the place that he's left, it seems to me. Which, by the
Thinking
way,
about,
really going to happen.
when he fronted up at club training, is about as awkward as when someone drops their guts in the lift. So it was just a very uninspiring sight, that, and very awkward for everyone involved.
Dan, it's going to finish, isn't it? I mean, surely that it seems the club's attitude at the moment is we're going to stick strong. He's got a 4-year contract. That always happens. Once it's quite clear that he's just going to pull out every trick in the book to get out of the place, surely the other player's going to say, "Oh, let him go." Quite apart from anything else, he can't shoot, and I know he's got other strength, but surely with that sort of money, they'll be able to replace him.
Yeah, externally, they're doing. The players are saying what they need to say externally. They're supportive of him. They're there with him. Obviously, it's a distraction. It is one that you want, a teammate to play, particularly when he's making that much money and taking that much money away from the team, doing some other things. December 15th is going to be a key day relative to any potential trade. That's when a number of other players become eligible. Should the Sixers want to trade him, that would probably be the time period to look at. Obviously, he's got 4 years on his contract. The GM of the 76ers said it may take 4 years to trade him. So I don't think they have interest in trading him at all. I think they know that they're a better team with him when he's playing and when he's ready to go.
On it. So I just wanted to raise a more positive note for Australians playing NBA. Josh Giddey, talk us through his recent performances.
I'm sorry, Paul, who?
Josh Giddey, isn't he killing it over there?
Yeah, so far off to a decent season this season. So, I haven't followed the start as well of every player out there, really following the team by team, player by player situations, but seems to be doing well.
He looked very impressive, setting all sorts of records for a rookie, apparently. So there you go. And as we talk, the Braves have gone ahead 4-1. So there you go. You could be on the money again, the Oracle.
There you go. Yep, it's I obviously don't have it on the TV in back of me, but we'll be turning it on as soon as the show's over today. So
yeah.
All right, Dan, from what you've seen so far in NBA, a prediction, if you like, for who will be the best teams in, and give us your best three for both conferences.
Absolutely, Mark. So obviously you've got the Milwaukee Bucks in the East, the defending champions. That's a team that you've always got to look out for. I think you also got to look at the Brooklyn Nets in many ways. I mean, that team with Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. Those are the guys that are taking the bulk of the money from that team right now. They seem to be a very heavy favorite. Right now, if you look at the betting lines, they are the odds-on favorite right now to win the NBA title. And then you get the Sixers. If the 76ers can get Ben Simmons healthy, they're probably the third best team in the Eastern Division in that respect. The West is the side of the NBA that continues to be strong. I mean, the Los Angeles Lakers, guys, that is an NBA team. If you look at the Lakers, I mean, they've got. I know we've talked about Carmelo Anthony, but Carmelo Anthony's on that team. Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, DeAndre Jordan, Russell Westbrook. I mean, if they don't win the West, it's because that team has imploded and just can't play with that much star power, or the Carmelo Anthony effect, as we've talked about previously on his career. But I think the Lakers, the Bucks, and even the Golden State Warriors right now are probably the top three teams, with very close being between the Suns, the Jazz, and even the Denver Nuggets there on the Western side, being close to that top three spot or that third spot.
Now, Dan, I was a little bit surprised with your East predictions. The New York Knicks are 2-0. What's going on there? You've ignored them. They're in form.
Well, it's one, Mark. I completely understand that New York teams, even though Brooklyn is favored to win, it does not have the New York name in front of them, which seems to not be a good thing for any New York team in recent history. So,
all right, Dan. Thanks for that. An excellent preview of the NBA season, and like the MLB, I'll unlock that time capsule in about 6 months' time to see how the tips look then. Hopefully, they look great.
Crazy how long that season goes, Mark. We'll be playing the NBA Finals in June. So you figure about 8-9 months from now. So
it's very kind of you, Professor, not to mention the prediction that the Jets would be good. I'm happy to forgive it, Dan. Just this once. We'll forgive you that one. I've got a body by a giraffe, mind by an elephant, but we'll forgive you.
That's why I said, Paul. I think I put a caveat to that. If their rookie quarterback plays well, their rookie quarterback has not played well. And that's why I said earlier, New York teams, when you have New York in front of that team, it's generally not a good thing right now. So
like waiting for Godot, I think, waiting for them to come good.
All right. Racing and a big day of racing yesterday at Moonee Valley, Gelding, Cox Plate Day. And did the stewards get the protest decision correct, or might there be some rumblings that maybe they missed something that they should have taken into account?
Did they get it correct, Professor? No. In one word answer. If that happened today at Sale, that protest would have been upheld. The fact that it's a $5 million race, both horses are colts, are going to be worth mega money after. So a win like that, yeah. Look, if that was a brush, I'll go he. The horse certainly bumped. Craig Williams had to stop riding Animo, and the margin was a short head. We've seen from the film, the horses come in basically 2 lanes of the mowing. So, the horses come into the running of the other horse, forced it down. The history of the Cox Plates and protest, Professor, for a winner, one has never been upheld. Never been upheld. You had Sunline and Northerly absolutely sandwich Viscount probably 20 years ago. Viscount was clearly going to win the race. One's come out and one's come in and sandwiched it, took its running. That was dismissed. There has been protests given, Professor, but they've been for the minor placings.
Gelding, can I just ask, for a non-horse person, do these protests, do they have to prove that the horse would have won the race, or that its progress was significantly impeded, or words to that effect?
Well, that's one of the tests, John, is that did the interference cost that horse the race?
Right. Okay.
Right. So when you're talking about a short head, you're talking about 6 inches. Now, look, to give the stewards an hour, and the professor will know we've got not a high opinion of the stewards, because the jockeys seem to be able to do anything. Then they just talk a whole lot of crap, and the stewards go, naughty boys, don't do it again.
MSU.
Yeah. So, look, and let me state, I had a 2-bet theory. Main bet was very elegant, but also had a bet on state of rest, and I thought Animo should have won the race, and should have been given the race. But look, the last 50 metres, both the horses had clear running, and state of rest got its head in front in that, and I suppose that's where the stewards have an out. This wasn't something that stopped right on the line. Yes, it stopped at 50, 80 metres out, but for the last 80 metres, the horse could have gone. The counter argument to that is, of course, it stopped the momentum for 20 yards, so Williams couldn't ride it. He had to get away from it. The horse was making its move to go past at the time. So, yeah, look, personally, I think they got it wrong. Pocket-wise, very, very, very happy that they didn't change the result.
Now, just on your point, John, the stewards report says that passing the 100-metre mark, state of rest shifted in and brushed Animo before being straightened by its rider. Now, you can go to the racing.com website and you can watch the steward's vision, what the stewards actually see, which is the front on, not the side on, of the horse's positioning. And I've watched it 20 times now. And if I watch Animo, it not only gets knocked by state of rest, but it has to change course. So it veers in slightly towards the running rail. Now, once it does that wasn't its original course. It's got to have travelled further than it was going to in the first place. Now, if it's what was it, Gelding, a short half head or a half head?
Short head.
So it's a short head.
Which is about 6 inches. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the smallest margins in racing.
It's a bob of a head.
Yeah, and not only that, Williams holds his whip in his right hand for 4 strides of the horse. He can't use the whip because state of rest is that close to his mount that he can't use it at all. He's just unable to use it. Now, if you look at that, okay, if the stewards from that position can't say, oh, well, that affected the result of the race, then I doubt that any steward would ever be able to reverse a result of a race.
Professor, just on what you said there, sounds to me that they're trying to justify their decision by miscategorising what appears to have been a significant incident by describing it as a brush. Now, if it's a brush, that's an incidental, non-invasive, not even hardly a touch. But what you're saying, Gelding, what you're saying, Professor, is that that's just not how it was.
It was a bump. Like the horses come in,
yeah.
John, probably, I don't know, 5 to 6 feet and made contact with the horse. As you said, some of you gentlemen sat on tribunals and that. If you say I brushed the player, I take that as a glancing blow. I don't know whether you have a different variation of it. I would call a brush a glancing blow. This certainly, when a jockey has to move course, stop riding, stop using the whip, straighten his horse up, that's a little bit more than just a glancing blow, isn't it? But as I said, I don't see it that I see it as it should have been reversed. That's only an opinion. Look, the horse did get in front of it over the last 50 metres and held on. So whether that's the out, when you're talking about a $5 million race.
Well, given it's a 400 kilogram animal, it would take more than a brush to move it, wouldn't it?
Sorry,
Giraffe? A 400 kilogram animal, it'd take more than a brush to move it.
Well, I think if you get hit by these ones are grown horses. And actually, that's another good point you raised. Animo's a 3-year-old and is still growing as a colt. And in fact, it hasn't turned 3 yet. And you've got State of Rest that is a European. So it's more developed horse. It's 6 months older. So, those things kind of affect horses differently. But Animo was very courageous. And I thought while these two were bumping, I was hoping our bet, Very Elegant, would have come up. But she just seemed to peak on a run and run third. But been a very good horse to us, Very Elegant, and paid $1.50 for a place. And, of course, get a bonus bet with the win.
All right, Gelding, racing today, any tips for the viewers?
Well, the funny, Professor, you should say that. I gave one tip to the boys at St. Arnaud in the first. Of course, it ran second, following on for yesterday. The winner of the first at sale today was a horse called Out of Isolation. Now, if that wasn't the omen bet going around, I'll never know. But there's also one at St. Arnaud for the Giraffe in race 6, Mr. Haverchat. That's got to be his omen bet at about 20 to 1. But at sale today, sale Cup Day, Professor, let's go race 3, number 6, Little Fafo. Patrick Payne, Billy Egan in a maiden, second at its last start. We then go to race 5, number 13, Lazuka. And then in the Sale Cup, we like Embolism, a 3-year-old from Danny O'Brien, race 7, number 7. race 8, American Angel, number 13. And we'll finish with race 9, number 10, Hickok. We'll use some of those bonus bets from yesterday, Professor.
Mr. Habitat's nominated in race 6 at Sales.
Yeah, sorry, I meant Sale. Race 6, number 4, Mr. Habitat.
They've never done any good, that horse.
Gareth.
It's too busy talking, I think.
Hey,
Doesn't have its mind on the jobs.
round about 20 to 1. It was placed last start, so
Let's stop talking then.
yeah, maybe worth a little bit.
All right, we might finish today's show with you, Paul. The worst kept secret in rugby league. Wayne Bennet was announced the inaugural coach of the Redcliffe Dolphins during the week, and perhaps from what I've read in the media, I should stop calling them the Redcliffe Dolphins because there might be a name change.
Well, I was just about to say that. They're just going to be called the Dolphins. It's not quite as bad as the Washington football team. But Peter Fitzsimons, who loves getting up on the top rope more than Hulk Hogan, he's come out and said it's a disgrace. But there's a fair bit behind it, and I can understand the chairman's words that he wants it to be a national brand. They're going to have an enormous area of people there, and that's a great area. Wayne Bennet, gee, looked relaxed on that deck. I think it's been locked down in cold Melbourne for so long, but it looked like a stunning part of the world out on that deck there. And interestingly, the Moreton Bay mayor isn't too impressed. He put in $10 million on the basis that they'd be called the Moreton Bay Dolphins, if you don't mind. Now, there's a part of the world near there called Deception Bay, which is quite appropriate because he's been told in no uncertain terms it won't be called anything. It'll just be called the Dolphins. So I agree with that. I'm happy Wayne Bennett's still in the game. It's a great area to live, a great area of rugby league, and they're going to get some great players there. They won't be whipping boys of the league. They will be up and running, not next year, the year after. Daly Cherry Evans, possibly their top target. He was raised in the area, played for the the Dolphins as a younger player through the junior ranks. You've got Cameron Munster as well at the Storm, would be high on their hit list. And with Wayne Bennet there, you've got someone who people want to play for. So that's going to be a big head start for them as they head into the season after next. So it's going to be a really good time for rugby league, and that part of the world is rugby league central. So great for the game.
Well, the mayor of Moreton Bay's argument is that all the teams apart from New Zealand Warriors have got a geographic location to their name, and he says if you name the Dolphins, it just becomes a generic, non-specific name. And I have to say that it reminded me of the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are known as the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay's got a population of 104,000 people. It's got 360,000 shareholders, Dan. The NFL's cap is 32 owners, except for Green Bay. You've got 360,000 owners. And I must say, I thought the mayor's arguments were fairly strong, that it has always been, I think you told us 1947, I think, it's had a long history, this club, and I think it would actually take something away from it, not to give it the Moreton Bay, or some other geographic.
Well, it is Redcliffe where they're based. It's interesting because he's pushing for the name Moreton Bay to be somehow included. So that'd be very confusing if it was the Moreton Bay Redcliffe Dolphins. It's quite a mouthful, especially for a rugby league fan. I like the concept, but I understand where you're coming from, and you would like a location name, but they don't want to limit themselves, and I think that's an admirable trait. They want to capture as large a share of that area as they can, and it's a massively booming area. You wouldn't want to live anywhere else if you got settled there, I'd say. So I understand both sides of the argument, but it's just going to be great, and it's a shame that it's a distraction for what's a very positive thing for the game. But we'll see how they go. There's no better coach than Wayne Bennet to get teams up and about. So we saw what he did with the Rabbitohs. I'm certain that he'll have this club, not a basket case, which is possibly what you could call the Gold Coast Suns, for example, in the AFL. I don't think that will happen with this team.
Mark, we might talk another time, because I know you and I both follow the Green Bay Packers, but with Dan, perhaps because I think that they're the quintessential local team done good. They're the most successful team in the NFL ever. They don't have any owner. As I say, they've got 326,000 owners. And I love that story And it just seems to me, Paul, that somebody like this Dolphins is the closest thing that we'll get to a grassroots club that's done well.
Yep. It's going to be great for the game. I'm hopeful too that they'll get the local juniors through the Wayne Bennet factor, and there's some superstars coming off contract, so they're going to be good.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks for your participation today. Great to see you back in the frame, Dan.
Hey, great to see you guys are out of jail. So great to you can actually go outside and play. So hopefully you guys are getting outside today.
Dan, just on that, will we see all the hats being removed with a few haircuts being due from the professor?
I'm booked in next week. So.
I noticed Judge is getting pretty long on the sides there. So
I said to somebody the other day that I was starting to look like my father, but since I haven't had a haircut, I'm starting to look like my mother. So it's all getting a bit woolly.
Well, I think the biggest shock today is that the Gelding's actually here with the ability to go out for lunch. I was sure that he would be a missing person today, but no, wasn't able to get a booking apparently, Gelding.
Not where we wanted to go, Professor, but I will tell you, we did obtain a booking for tonight's dinner at a favourite Chinese restaurant of ours.
Oh, very nice. Well, you will be getting out, so that's good.
It was a better of both worlds, over to come and do the show with these fine gentlemen, and then to be able to go out for dinner tonight for a nice little Chinese. A bit of the old Peking duck might go us, and the chili prawns might be getting a bit of a run later on this evening, Professor.
I said to the pub manager yesterday, the first beer out of lockdown, I'm going to tip over my head, and he thought I was serious. So I said, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
And Gelding, I think I remember that dinner from about 6 years ago. So I think I know.
Ah, yes, you've done the Peking duck, yes.
Yes.
You'll have to come down for it again, Dad.
Can't wait, guys. I cannot wait. So I'm glad you guys are finally open. I can consider it. So.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks for your participation today, and until next Sunday.